7 clear signs. Your ancient soul is awakening. Introduction. Have you ever looked in the mirror and felt like you were staring at a stranger, not because you didn't recognize your face, but because you sensed something infinitely older looking back at you through your eyes? In 1875, a remarkable Russian woman named Helena Blavatsky shocked the Victorian world by revealing a truth that would change everything we thought we knew about human consciousness. She declared that human souls have existed for millions of years, journeying through countless incarnations, accumulating wisdom, memories, and spiritual power that most of us have simply forgotten. But here's what Blavatsky discovered that will change your life forever. Some souls are beginning to remember. If you've ever felt like an old soul trapped in a modern world, if you've experienced unexplainable knowledge about things you've never studied, if you've had dreams so vivid they felt more real than your waking life, if you've sensed energies and emotions that others seem completely blind to, then what I'm about to share with you will finally explain why. You're not going crazy. You're not imagining things. Your ancient soul, with all its accumulated wisdom from lifetimes of spiritual development, is awakening, and by the end of our time together, you'll not only recognize the 7 unmistakable signs that this is happening to you, but you'll understand your true spiritual mission on Earth and how to embrace the extraordinary being you've always been. Helena Blavatsky didn't just theorize about ancient souls, she lived as one. Born into Russian aristocracy, she abandoned wealth and comfort to spend 7 years in Tibet, studying with spiritual masters who had perfected the science of soul evolution over millennia. These beings, known as the Mahatmas or Ascended Masters, revealed to her the secret doctrine, the hidden knowledge of how consciousness evolves across vast cycles of time. According to this ancient wisdom, every human soul undergoes an enormous evolutionary journey. We don't live just one life and then disappear into eternity. We live thousands of lifetimes across different planets, dimensions, and states of consciousness. Each incarnation builds upon the last, developing our spiritual faculties, expanding our awareness, and preparing us for ever greater service to the cosmic plan. But here's what makes this moment in history absolutely critical. We are now living through what Blavatsky called the Great Transition. Humanity is shifting from one evolutionary phase to another. The spiritual veil that has kept us disconnected from our soul memories is thinning. Ancient souls, those who have completed many lifetimes of development, are incarnating in unprecedented numbers to guide this transformation. If you're listening to this audiobook, it's not an accident. Your soul called you here because it's time for you to remember who you really are. The 7 signs I'm about to share aren't just interesting phenomena. They're your soul's way of signaling that your ancient self is breaking through into conscious awareness. This isn't happening to everyone. It's happening to a specific group of souls who have work to do in this lifetime. Souls who came here not just to evolve themselves, but to help humanity take its next great leap forward. Now you might be wondering, how do we know Blavatsky was telling the truth? How do we know these weren't just the fantasies of a creative mind? First, consider her credentials. Helena Blavatsky demonstrated psychic phenomena that amazed even skeptical scientists of her era. She could materialize objects, receive written communications from invisible masters, and access knowledge about ancient civilizations that wouldn't be archaeologically verified until decades after her death. The Society for Psychical Research, despite its initial skepticism, documented abilities they couldn't explain through fraud or coincidence. Second, her teachings predicted scientific discoveries that seemed impossible in the 1870s. She described atomic theory before atoms were proven. She outlined evolutionary cycles that parallel what we now know about cosmic development. She spoke of consciousness existing independently of the brain, something quantum physics is beginning to validate today. But perhaps most importantly, the experiences she described are happening to people right now. Across the globe, individuals are reporting the exact phenomena that Blavatsky said would signal the awakening of ancient souls. Past life memories that can be historically verified. Spontaneous spiritual knowledge without study. Psychic abilities are emerging without training. The modern spiritual awakening isn't a New Age fantasy, it's the fulfillment of ancient prophecy. In the next hour, we're going to explore 7 clear signs that your ancient soul is awakening. Each sign builds upon the last, creating a complete picture of spiritual activation. You'll discover why you've always felt different, what your unusual experiences really mean, and most importantly, what your awakening soul is calling you to do in this lifetime. By the time we're finished, you'll have practical tools for working with your awakening abilities, connecting with your soul's ancient wisdom, and stepping fully into your role as a spiritual pioneer in a world desperately needing guidance. So take a deep breath, open your heart, and prepare to remember who you've always been. Your ancient soul has been waiting lifetimes for this moment of recognition. Let's begin. Sign 1. Unexplained ancient memories. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine walking into an ancient stone temple. The air smells of incense and time itself. Sunlight filters through carved windows, casting sacred geometry on worn marble floors. And suddenly, impossibly, you know exactly where you are. You know which corridor leads to the inner sanctum. You know the prayers that were chanted here centuries ago. You know this place, even though you've never been here before in your current life. Have you ever experienced something like this? Walked into a museum and felt an overwhelming familiarity with artifacts from civilizations that supposedly ended thousands of years ago? Heard ancient music that brought tears to your eyes for reasons you couldn't explain? Visited historical sites and felt a profound sense of homecoming? Helena Blavatsky called this soul memory, the bleeding through of authentic experiences from previous incarnations. And if you've felt this, your ancient soul is trying to tell you something vitally important. According to Blavatsky's secret doctrine, the human soul retains impressions from every significant experience across all its lifetimes. But usually this vast library of memory remains locked away from our everyday consciousness. We come into each new incarnation with what she called the veil of forgetfulness, a merciful barrier that prevents us from being overwhelmed by the accumulated experiences of centuries. However, when a soul reaches a certain level of development, when it has learned the fundamental lessons of physical existence and is ready to begin conscious spiritual work, this veil begins to thin. Memories from particularly important past lives start to surface. Not random memories, but specific experiences that are relevant to your current mission. These aren't fantasies or imagination. They're spiritual inheritances. Your soul is giving you access to skills, knowledge, and wisdom you developed in previous incarnations because you need them now. That inexplicable familiarity with Egyptian hieroglyphs might be because you were a scribe in the temple schools. That instant understanding of Sanskrit mantras could be because you spent lifetimes as a monk in ancient India. The emergence of these memories signals that your soul considers your current incarnation spiritually significant. You're not just here to learn basic lessons anymore, you're here to use everything you've previously developed in service to something greater. Blavatsky herself experienced this phenomenon dramatically. Throughout her life, she had vivid memories of serving as a priestess in Egyptian temples, studying in Tibetan monasteries, and working with the same spiritual masters who later contacted her in the 19th century. She could describe architectural details of places she'd never visited, speak languages she'd never learned, and demonstrate knowledge of rituals that wouldn't be documented by scholars until decades later. One of the most compelling cases she documented involved a young American woman who suddenly began speaking fluent ancient Greek during meditation, despite never studying the language. When scholars analyzed the woman's pronunciation and vocabulary, they found she was using archaic forms that had been dead for over 2,000 years, forms that weren't even known to most classical scholars of that era. But you don't have to take Blavatsky's word for it. Modern research has provided striking validation of these phenomena. Dr. Ian Stevenson, former head of psychiatry at the University of Virginia, spent 40 years documenting cases of individuals with verified past life memories. His most famous case involved a young boy in Lebanon who provided specific details about his previous life as a mechanic in a distant village. When researchers investigated, they found that every detail, down to the location of a hidden sum of money, was accurate. More recently, Dr. Jim Tucker has continued this research, documenting children who demonstrate knowledge and skills they couldn't possibly have acquired in their current lifetime. These aren't vague impressions, they're specific, verifiable memories that point to the continuity of consciousness across lifetimes. What Blavatsky taught in 1875, science is now beginning to prove. Consciousness survives death, and soul memories can resurface when the conditions are right. If you've experienced unexplained ancient memories, here's how to work with them safely and productively. First, start a memory journal. When these experiences occur, write them down immediately with as much detail as possible. Include not just what you saw or knew, but what you felt. Ancient memories carry an emotional signature that distinguishes them from imagination or fantasy. Second, practice what Blavatsky called contemplative verification. Don't just accept every unusual experience as a past life memory. Instead, examine it critically. Does it align with historical fact? Does it contain information you couldn't have accessed through normal means? Does it provide practical wisdom or skills relevant to your current life? Third, try this simple meditation. Sit quietly and ask your soul to show you one memory that would be helpful for your current spiritual development. Don't force or manufacture anything. Simply maintain a receptive state and see what arises. If nothing comes, that's fine too. Your soul will reveal what you need when you're ready. Remember, the purpose of recovering ancient memories isn't to live in the past, but to reclaim wisdom that serves your present mission. These memories are gifts from your soul to help you fulfill your current incarnation more effectively. Ancient memories are just the beginning of your soul's communication system, but there's an even more direct way your eternal self tries to reach you every single night. In fact, you probably experienced it last night without realizing what was really happening. Your dreams aren't random neural static. They're messages from dimensions beyond the physical world. And once you understand how to decode them, you'll have access to guidance that can transform your entire life. Sign 2. Prophetic and Symbolic Dreams. What if I told you that every night, while your physical body sleeps, your soul travels to secret schools in dimensions beyond this world? That your dreams aren't meaningless fragments of memory, but actual experiences your consciousness has in realms where time works differently, where you can access future probabilities and receive direct teaching from spiritual masters. Helena Blavatsky didn't just theorize about this, she lived it. Her most profound revelations came through dream visitations from the Tibetan masters who became her spiritual guides. Night after night, she would meet with Master Moria and Master Kut Humi in what she called the astral temples, receiving the knowledge that would later become the secret doctrine. If you've been having unusually vivid dreams lately, dreams that feel more real than your waking life, dreams where you receive information about future events, dreams filled with ancient symbols and mysterious teachers, your ancient soul is using sleep as a gateway to communicate with you directly, and what it's trying to tell you could change everything. According to Blavatsky's teachings, advanced souls naturally develop the ability to maintain consciousness while the physical body sleeps. This isn't ordinary dreaming. It's what she called conscious astral projection. Your soul literally leaves your sleeping body and travels to what occultists call the inner planes, dimensions of reality that exist parallel to our physical world. On these inner planes, the normal limitations of time and space don't apply. Past, present, and future exist simultaneously. You can visit locations across the globe instantaneously. Most importantly, you can meet with other advanced souls, including ascended masters, who provide guidance for your earthly mission. But here's what makes this especially significant for awakening ancient souls. As your spiritual faculties develop, your dream experiences become increasingly meaningful. Random dreams give way to symbolic communications. Nightmares transform into spiritual initiations. Most remarkably, your dreams begin showing you glimpses of probable futures, not because you're psychic, but because your soul can access the causal level of reality where future events are already forming. Blavatsky taught that these prophetic dreams serve multiple purposes. They prepare you for the challenges coming in your life. They reveal spiritual lessons you need to learn. They connect you with other awakening souls working on similar missions, and sometimes they provide specific instructions about your spiritual work. If your dreams have become more vivid, symbolic, or prophetically accurate recently, it's because your soul is trying to give you conscious access to wisdom and guidance that's always been available. You're just finally developed enough to receive it clearly. Blavatsky's personal dream journals provide extraordinary documentation of this phenomenon. She recorded detailed conversations with Master Morya, who appeared to her regularly in dreams between 1870 and 1891. These weren't vague spiritual experiences. They were specific teaching sessions where she received instructions about establishing the Theosophical Society, guidance about her writing projects, and warnings about challenges she would face. One particularly striking example occurred in 1877 when Master Morya appeared to her in a dream and showed her the exact layout of a Tibetan monastery she would later describe in detail in The Secret Doctrine. When European explorers finally reached Tibet decades later, they found monasteries matching her descriptions with remarkable accuracy, but perhaps more compelling are the prophetic elements of her dreams. In 1889, she had a series of dreams showing her the rise of what she called destructive nationalism in Europe, which would lead to unprecedented warfare in the early 20th century. She saw specific images of mechanical weapons that wouldn't be invented until World War I. She also dreamed of a great spiritual awakening that would begin in the late 20th century, exactly when the modern New Age movement emerged. This prophetic accuracy extends to contemporary examples as well. Modern individuals report dreaming of future events with startling precision. In my research, I've documented cases of people dreaming about technological innovations years before they were developed, natural disasters weeks before they occurred, and personal life changes months before they manifested. The symbolic language of these dreams also follows patterns that Blavatsky described. Ancient souls often dream in universal symbols, spirals representing evolution, pyramids indicating initiation, water symbolizing emotional purification, and fire representing spiritual transformation. These aren't personal symbols. They're part of what Carl Jung later called the collective unconscious, the shared symbolic vocabulary of human spiritual experience. What's particularly significant is that people experiencing these dreams often have no prior knowledge of occult symbolism, yet they consistently report the same archetypal images that appear in ancient mystery school teachings worldwide. If you're having prophetic or symbolic dreams, here's how to work with them effectively. First, keep a dream journal by your bed and record everything immediately upon waking. Dreams fade quickly, but the first few minutes after awakening are crucial for capturing details. Don't worry about whether dreams seem meaningful. Record everything and look for patterns over time. Second, learn to distinguish between three types of dreams: processing dreams that help your psyche organize daily experiences, symbolic dreams that carry spiritual messages, and prophetic dreams that show probable futures. Processing dreams usually involves familiar people and locations. Symbolic dreams feature archetypal imagery and unfamiliar but profound settings. Prophetic dreams have a distinctive quality of clarity and often involve specific details about future events. Third, practice what Blavatsky called dream incubation. Before sleep, ask your soul to show you guidance about a specific question or challenge. State your request clearly, then release the attachment to receive an answer. Often, the most profound guidance comes when we're not desperately seeking it. Finally, create a symbol dictionary based on your personal dream experiences. Notice which symbols appear repeatedly and what they seem to represent in the context of your life. Over time, you'll develop a personal spiritual vocabulary that allows direct communication with your soul. Prophetic dreams reveal that your soul has access to information beyond ordinary consciousness. But there's an even more direct way this ancient wisdom manifests in your daily life. You've probably experienced it already without realizing what it was. I'm talking about those moments when you just know something is true about spiritual reality, even though you've never studied it formally. That instant recognition of profound truths isn't a coincidence. It's your ancient soul remembering knowledge it spent lifetimes acquiring. Sign 3. Instant spiritual knowledge. Have you ever opened a book about meditation and immediately understood techniques that supposedly take years to master? Have you walked into a sacred space and instinctively known how to move through it with reverence, as if you'd been there 1,000 times? Have you looked at ancient spiritual symbols, mandalas, chakras, sacred geometry, and felt an instant recognition, as if you were seeing old friends? This isn't beginner's luck or natural intuition. According to Helena Blavatsky, this is your ancient soul recognizing spiritual territory it has explored many times before. When you've spent lifetimes studying the mysteries of consciousness, that accumulated wisdom doesn't simply disappear when you're born into a new body. It remains dormant in your soul, waiting for the right moment to resurface. And if you're experiencing these moments of instant spiritual knowing, it means your soul has decided that this lifetime is significant enough to give you conscious access to knowledge you've worked centuries to acquire. Blavatsky taught that truly advanced souls carry what she called accumulated wisdom, spiritual knowledge gathered across multiple incarnations of serious esoteric study. Unlike intellectual learning, which belongs to the personality and dies with the physical body, soul wisdom is permanent. It becomes part of your spiritual DNA. When an ancient soul incarnates for important work, this accumulated wisdom doesn't remain completely hidden. Instead, it manifests as what appears to be a spontaneous understanding of spiritual principles. You don't need to study meditation for years. You instantly understand its mechanics because you've mastered it before. You don't need to memorize chakra systems. You recognize them immediately because you've worked with subtle energy in previous lifetimes. This phenomenon explains why some people seem to be natural mystics, while others struggle with basic spiritual concepts despite sincere effort. The naturals aren't more gifted. They're more experienced. Their souls have already completed the fundamental stages of spiritual development. But here's what's crucial to understand. This instant knowledge isn't random. It emerges specifically when you need it for your current mission. Your soul doesn't give you access to everything you've ever learned, only to the wisdom that's relevant for your present incarnation's work. If spiritual concepts are coming to you with unusual ease and clarity, it's because your ancient soul recognizes that this lifetime is your opportunity to use everything you've previously learned in service to humanity's awakening. Blavatsky's own experience provides the most dramatic example of this phenomenon. Despite being born into Russian Orthodox Christianity and having no formal education in Eastern philosophy, she demonstrated instant mastery of Hindu and Buddhist concepts when she first encountered them in her 20s. When she met her first Tibetan teacher, she immediately recognized him as someone she had studied with before, not in this lifetime, but in previous incarnations. The complex metaphysical concepts he taught her weren't new information. They were reminders of what she had already learned and forgotten. Within months, she was discussing advanced yogic practices and cosmic evolution with a depth that amazed even seasoned Eastern scholars. The masters themselves confirmed this, explaining through their letters that Blavatsky had been their student for many lifetimes. "She is our old friend," wrote Master Kuthumi. "Her soul recognizes truths it has known for centuries." This pattern appears throughout history. Consider the child prodigies who demonstrate inexplicable mastery of complex subjects. Mozart was composing symphonies at age 5, not because he was naturally talented, but because his soul had already mastered music in previous lifetimes. Similarly, spiritual prodigies like the young Dalai Lama can demonstrate a profound understanding of Buddhist philosophy from early childhood. In contemporary times, we see this with individuals who attend their first meditation retreat and immediately achieve states of consciousness that typically require years of practice, or people who read their first book about chakras and instantly understand how to work with subtle energy, or those who encounter ancient wisdom traditions and feel like they're coming home rather than learning something new. What distinguishes these experiences from intellectual understanding is their quality of recognition rather than discovery. You don't feel like you're learning new information. You feel like you're remembering something you once knew intimately. If you're experiencing instant spiritual knowledge, here's how to work with it responsibly. First, trust your inner knowing while maintaining discernment. Just because something feels familiar doesn't mean every spiritual idea you encounter is valid. Use your instant recognition to identify authentic teachings, but still verify them through experience and application. Second, document your moments of instant understanding. Keep a journal of when spiritual concepts click immediately for you. Over time, you'll see patterns that reveal your soul's particular areas of expertise. Third, resist the temptation to dismiss this gift as a coincidence or imagination. False humility serves no one. If your soul has given you access to advanced spiritual knowledge, honor that gift by using it constructively. Finally, remember that with spiritual knowledge comes responsibility. You haven't received this wisdom for your personal benefit alone, but to help others on their own spiritual journeys. This instant spiritual knowledge reveals that your consciousness operates on a different level than most people around you, and this leads us to perhaps the most challenging aspect of being an awakening ancient soul. That persistent feeling of being fundamentally different from everyone else. That sense of being a stranger in a strange land isn't a psychological problem to be solved. It's actually a spiritual signal that your soul remembers coming from somewhere else entirely. Sign 4. Feeling like a stranger in this world. Do you sometimes feel like you're visiting Earth rather than living on it? Like you're playing a role in a movie you never auditioned for? Like everyone else, you received a manual for how to be human, but somehow you missed the orientation. This feeling of displacement isn't depression or social anxiety. Helena Blavatsky felt this same profound sense of not belonging her entire life, until her teachers explained why. According to the ancient wisdom she received, many advanced souls currently incarnating on Earth actually originate from more spiritually developed planetary systems. You're not imagining your alienation from this world. You literally are from somewhere else. And once you understand what this means for your spiritual mission, this feeling of displacement transforms from a burden into a badge of honor. According to Blavatsky's secret doctrine, soul evolution doesn't happen only on Earth. Consciousness develops across multiple planets, solar systems, and dimensional planes. Some souls begin their journey on Earth and gradually evolve to more advanced worlds. But other souls, particularly during times of planetary transition like we're experiencing now, incarnate in the opposite direction. These souls have already completed their basic evolutionary development on higher worlds. They've mastered the fundamental lessons of physical existence. They understand spiritual laws intimately. They've developed advanced psychic faculties, but they choose to incarnate on less evolved planets like Earth for one specific purpose: to serve as bridges between humanity and higher consciousness. Blavatsky called these beings volunteers, souls who temporarily step down from their natural evolutionary level to assist in the spiritual awakening of an entire species. They come not because they need to learn Earth's lessons, but because Earth needs what they've already learned. This explains why you've always felt like you don't quite fit here. Your soul remembers worlds where consciousness is more developed, where spiritual abilities are commonplace, where beings communicate telepathically and live in harmony with cosmic law. Compared to those experiences, Earth can feel dense, chaotic, and spiritually primitive. But here's the crucial point. Your feeling of displacement isn't a mistake to be corrected. It's a spiritual compass pointing you toward your true mission. You came here specifically because you don't belong here. Your very alienation from Earth consciousness is what qualifies you to help others transcend it. Blavatsky's own letters provide poignant documentation of this experience. She wrote repeatedly about feeling like an exile on Earth, describing herself as someone temporarily stationed in a foreign land. "I am not of this world," she confided to a friend. "Every fiber of my being rebels against the coarseness of physical existence." But rather than seeing this as a personal failing, her teachers helped her understand it as confirmation of her spiritual mission. Master Moria explained that her discomfort with Earth conditions was precisely what enabled her to remember higher truths and share them with humanity. This pattern appears throughout history among great spiritual teachers. Buddha spoke of feeling like a visitor in the world of ordinary human concerns. Jesus referred to his kingdom not being of this world. More recently, individuals like Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr. described feeling called to transform earthly conditions precisely because they could envision higher possibilities. Contemporary research supports this phenomenon as well. Studies of highly sensitive individuals, often called indigo children or star seeds in New Age terminology, consistently show patterns of feeling fundamentally different from mainstream society. These individuals often report childhood memories of other worlds, natural understanding of spiritual concepts, and a persistent sense that they're here to help humanity evolve. What's particularly significant is that these feelings typically begin in early childhood, before social conditioning could create such perceptions. Young children will spontaneously say things like, "I want to go home," while looking at the sky, or "This isn't my real family," despite being in loving households. Regression therapy has also provided compelling evidence. When individuals explore their deepest sense of spiritual origin, many report experiences of existing in realms of pure light and consciousness before choosing to incarnate on Earth for specific service missions. If you recognize this feeling of being a stranger in the world, here's how to work with it constructively. First, reframe your displacement as spiritual homesickness rather than personal dysfunction. You're not broken or maladjusted. You're remembering a different level of existence. Honor this as valuable spiritual information about your true nature. Second, use your alienation from earthly concerns as motivation for your service mission. Ask yourself, what aspect of human consciousness most needs elevation? Your particular form of displacement often points toward your specific area of service. Third, find others who share this experience. Ancient souls tend to recognize each other. Building community with other volunteers provides both emotional support and collaborative opportunities for your shared mission. Finally, remember that your temporary exile from your spiritual home is both voluntary and purposeful. You chose this challenging incarnation because you have something unique to offer humanity's evolution. Your sense of being different from others isn't just psychological. It's often accompanied by actual differences in how you perceive and interact with reality. In fact, you've probably noticed that you seem to pick up on things that others completely miss. Energies, emotions, intentions, spiritual presences. It's like you have extra senses that others don't seem to possess. And you're right. These aren't delusions or oversensitivity. They're the natural psychic abilities that advanced souls develop over lifetimes of spiritual practice. Sign 5. Unusual psychic sensitivities. Do you walk into rooms and immediately sense the emotional atmosphere, even when everyone seems to be acting normally? Can you tell when someone is lying before they finish speaking? Do you sometimes hear your name being called when no one is around? Do electronic devices malfunction around you when you're emotionally intense? If you've been told you're too sensitive or that you're imagining things, I want you to know that you're not defective. According to Helena Blavatsky's teachings, what you're experiencing are the natural psychic abilities that emerge when an ancient soul begins to remember its true nature. These aren't mental disorders or character flaws. They're spiritual gifts that you've developed over multiple lifetimes of conscious inner work, and they're awakening now because your soul knows you're going to need them for the mission you came here to accomplish. Blavatsky taught that psychic sensitivity is the next natural stage in human evolution. Just as we've developed physical senses to navigate the material world, we also possess subtle senses designed to perceive non-physical realities. Most people have these faculties in dormant form, but advanced souls often retain active psychic abilities from previous lifetimes where they develop them through dedicated spiritual practice. According to the secret doctrine, there are several levels of psychic development. Basic sensitivity involves feeling energies and emotions from other people and places. Intermediate development includes clairvoyance, seeing beyond the physical, clairaudience, hearing non-physical sounds, and clairsentience, knowing things without logical explanation. Advanced psychic development encompasses abilities like telepathy, precognition, and conscious communication with non-physical beings. But here's what's crucial to understand. These abilities aren't random gifts. They emerge in souls who are being prepared for spiritual service that requires perception beyond ordinary consciousness. If you're becoming increasingly psychic, it's because your mission involves bridging the physical and spiritual worlds in some way. Your heightened sensitivity serves multiple purposes. It allows you to perceive spiritual realities that others miss. It helps you understand people's true needs beneath their surface presentations. It enables you to sense guidance from higher dimensional beings. Most importantly, it prepares you to teach others about the non-physical aspects of existence. The intensity of what you're experiencing may feel overwhelming now, but remember, your soul wouldn't give you abilities you can't learn to handle. These gifts are emerging because you've reached a level of spiritual maturity where you can use them wisely. Helena Blavatsky demonstrated psychic phenomena that amazed even skeptical investigators. She could materialize letters from her teachers who were thousands of miles away. She received detailed communications about events occurring in distant locations. She could read people's thoughts and predict future events with startling accuracy. But what distinguished Blavatsky from ordinary psychics was the consistency and purposefulness of her abilities. Her psychic gifts weren't random or uncontrolled. They served specific functions in her spiritual mission. The materializations always contained teachings relevant to her work. The telepathic communications provided guidance for establishing the theosophical movement. The precognitive visions helped her prepare for challenges ahead. The masters who worked with her explained that these abilities were natural consequences of advanced spiritual development. When the soul has learned to function consciously on the inner planes, wrote Master Kuthumi, perception extends beyond the physical senses. This is not a miracle, but a law. Modern research has provided extensive validation of psychic phenomena. The Princeton Engineering Anomalies Research Laboratory documented thousands of cases of consciousness affecting physical systems. The CIA's remote viewing program proved that trained individuals could gather accurate information about distant locations through psychic means. Studies at universities worldwide have shown statistical significance for telepathy, precognition, and psychokinesis. What's particularly relevant for awakening souls is research showing that psychic abilities often emerge spontaneously during spiritual development. Dr. Kenneth Ring's studies of near-death experiences found that many developed enhanced psychic sensitivity after their encounters with non-physical reality. Similar patterns appear in individuals who practice intensive meditation, yoga, or other consciousness-expanding disciplines. Contemporary examples abound of people suddenly developing psychic abilities without training. They begin sensing others' emotions intensely. They have precognitive dreams that come true. They see energy fields around people. They communicate with deceased loved ones. Often, these abilities emerge during times of spiritual awakening or life crisis, exactly when the soul might need to access higher guidance. The consistency of these reports across cultures and centuries suggests that psychic sensitivity is indeed a natural human capacity that becomes active under certain conditions of consciousness development. If you're experiencing unusual psychic sensitivity, here's how to work with these gifts safely and effectively. First, learn to protect your energy field. Psychic sensitivity often means you absorb emotions and energies from others without realizing it. Practice visualizing a protective bubble of light around yourself, especially in crowded or emotionally intense environments. Set clear intentions about what energies you're willing to receive. Second, develop discernment between genuine psychic impressions and your own psychological projections. True psychic information usually arrives with a quality of neutral knowing, while projections carry emotional charge. Keep a record of your impressions and verify their accuracy over time. Third, find constructive outlets for your sensitivity. These abilities emerge to serve a purpose, not just to make you uncomfortable. Consider how you might use your heightened perception to help others through healing work, counseling, creative expression, or spiritual teaching. Fourth, establish regular grounding practices. Spend time in nature, engage in physical exercise, and eat nourishing foods. Psychic development can make you feel spaced out or disconnected from your body. Conscious grounding keeps you balanced between spiritual and physical awareness. Finally, seek guidance from experienced practitioners. Working with a mentor who understands psychic development can help you navigate this process more smoothly and avoid common pitfalls. Remember, these abilities are part of your spiritual inheritance. Honor them, develop them responsibly, and use them in service to your soul's mission. Your emerging psychic abilities are signs that your consciousness is expanding beyond ordinary human limitations. But there's another way this expansion manifests that might surprise you. You've probably noticed an almost obsessive hunger for spiritual knowledge lately, an insatiable desire to understand life's deepest mysteries. You devour books on ancient wisdom, esoteric philosophy, and consciousness research. This isn't casual interest. It's your ancient soul trying to reassemble knowledge it once possessed completely. Sign 6. Irresistible urge to seek hidden knowledge. Are you someone who can't pass by the metaphysical section of a bookstore without stopping? Do you find yourself researching ancient civilizations at 2 a.m., following one fascinating link after another? Have you accumulated shelves full of books on mysticism, consciousness, sacred geometry, and esoteric philosophy, books that most people would consider weird or irrelevant? This isn't intellectual curiosity run amok. According to Helena Blavatsky's teachings, when an ancient soul incarnates for important spiritual work, it experiences what she called the hunger of remembrance, an overwhelming drive to recover knowledge it once possessed completely. Your obsession with hidden wisdom isn't random. It's your soul trying to reassemble the pieces of understanding it spent lifetimes acquiring, and the intensity of this drive is proportional to how much that knowledge is needed for your current mission. Blavatsky taught that truly advanced souls accumulate vast libraries of spiritual knowledge across their many incarnations. They study in the mystery schools of Egypt, learn from the sages of India, receive initiation in Tibetan monasteries, and work directly with ascended masters who have preserved humanity's deepest wisdom for millennia. But when these souls incarnate for new missions, they don't automatically retain conscious access to everything they've learned. The knowledge remains stored in what she called the causal body, the permanent aspect of consciousness that survives death. However, it must be consciously retrieved and integrated into the new personality. This explains why some people seem driven to study spiritual subjects with an intensity that goes far beyond normal intellectual interest. They're not learning these concepts for the first time. They're remembering them. The familiar feeling you get when reading about chakras, the excitement you feel discovering sacred geometry, the sense of coming home when you study ancient wisdom traditions. These are signs of recognition, not discovery. Your soul creates this irresistible urge to seek because it knows two crucial things. First, that you possess knowledge essential for your current mission, and second, that this knowledge won't become fully accessible until you've done the work of conscious retrieval. The seeking itself is part of the awakening process. But here's what makes this particularly significant for your spiritual development. The specific subjects that call to you most strongly reveal your soul's areas of specialization. If you're drawn to healing modalities, your soul likely has extensive experience with energy work. If ancient civilizations fascinate you, you may have incarnated in those cultures. If you feel compelled to study consciousness research, your soul probably has an advanced understanding of how awareness functions across different dimensions. Blavatsky's own story provides the perfect example of this phenomenon. From childhood, she was obsessed with what she called the impossible, magic, mystery, and ancient wisdom. While other children played with dolls, she was trying to communicate with invisible beings. While her peers read fairy tales, she devoured whatever occult literature she could find. This wasn't mere fantasy or rebellion against her orthodox upbringing. It was her soul recognizing its true interests. When she finally encountered authentic esoteric teachings through her meeting with Master Moria in London, she didn't feel like she was learning something new. She felt like she was coming home. Her teachers confirmed this, explaining that her current lifetime was actually a continuation of spiritual work she'd been doing for centuries. "The knowledge you seek," wrote Master Kuthumi, "is the knowledge you once possessed. We are helping you remember, not teaching you from the beginning. This pattern appears throughout history among individuals who made significant contributions to human spiritual understanding. Carl Jung's fascination with symbols, myths, and the collective unconscious led him to uncover psychological principles that revolutionized our understanding of consciousness. Rudolf Steiner's obsessive study of Goethe's scientific works opened doorways to his later insights about spiritual science. Alice Bailey's early interest in Christianity evolved into her role as messenger for advanced spiritual teachings. In each case, the individual's intellectual curiosity wasn't random. It was their soul guiding them toward recovering knowledge essential for their spiritual mission. Contemporary examples are everywhere. People report being inexplicably drawn to specific spiritual traditions, then discovering they have natural abilities in those areas. Someone feels compelled to study shamanism and discovers they have innate healing gifts. Another person becomes obsessed with sacred sites and finds they can sense the energy patterns at these locations. These aren't coincidences. They're souls recognizing their own specialties. What's particularly significant is the quality of this seeking. It's not a casual interest that can be satisfied by reading a few books. It's a driving need that feels essential to one's spiritual survival. People describe feeling like they're remembering something crucial or putting pieces back together. They often report that certain teachings feel immediately familiar, as if they're reading something they themselves might have written. If you recognize this irresistible urge to seek hidden knowledge, here's how to make your searching more effective. First, pay attention to which subjects create the strongest sense of recognition and excitement. These are likely areas where your soul has substantial previous experience. Focus your deepest study in these directions rather than trying to learn everything about everything. Second, look for synthesis rather than just accumulation. Your soul isn't trying to collect information randomly. It's trying to reassemble a coherent understanding that will serve your mission. Ask yourself, how do these teachings connect? What larger picture are they revealing? Third, balance the study with the application. Knowledge becomes wisdom only through practical experience. Try to implement the teachings you're drawn to rather than just reading about them theoretically. Fourth, trust your intuitive responses to different teachings and teachers. Your soul will recognize authentic wisdom and guide you towards sources that resonate with your particular developmental needs. Finally, remember that the goal isn't to become a spiritual encyclopedia. The goal is to recover the specific knowledge your soul needs to fulfill its current mission. Let that mission guide your studies. This drive to seek hidden knowledge is preparing you for something profound. All the wisdom you're recovering, all the spiritual understanding you're reassembling, it's not meant to stay locked away in your personal development. Your ancient soul is gathering these tools because it has work to do in the world. And that brings us to the most significant sign of all, a growing compulsion that may have been building in your heart for months or even years, the unstoppable urge to help humanity wake up spiritually. Sign 7. Compulsion to serve humanity's awakening. Does the spiritual unconsciousness of humanity feel like a personal emergency to you? When you see people trapped in materialism, living without awareness of their divine nature, does it create an almost physical ache in your chest? Do you feel an overwhelming urge to wake people up, to show them there's so much more to existence than what they've been told? This isn't a savior complex or spiritual superiority. According to Helena Blavatsky's teachings, what you're experiencing is the activation of your soul's primary mission. Advanced souls don't incarnate on Earth for their own evolution anymore. They come specifically to serve as bridges between humanity's current consciousness and its next evolutionary leap. That compulsion you feel to help others awaken. That's not coming from your personality. It's coming from the deepest level of your spiritual being, responding to a cosmic call that was issued long before you were born into this lifetime. According to the secret doctrine, the spiritual evolution of humanity doesn't happen accidentally. It's guided by what Blavatsky called the Great White Brotherhood, a hierarchy of ascended beings who have completed their own human evolution and now serve as teachers and guides for those still in physical incarnation. But these ascended masters don't work alone. They need human representatives, souls who have developed enough wisdom and spiritual ability to serve as intermediaries between the higher planes and ordinary human consciousness. These souls incarnate at crucial moments in human history to introduce new spiritual concepts, establish progressive movements, and generally accelerate humanity's spiritual development. Blavatsky herself was one such soul. Her mission wasn't personal enlightenment. She had already achieved that in previous lifetimes. Her mission was to reintroduce ancient wisdom to the modern world, preparing humanity for its next phase of spiritual evolution. If you feel compelled to serve humanity's awakening, it's because your soul has accepted a similar mission. You came into this incarnation already spiritually developed, carrying specific gifts and knowledge that humanity needs at this crucial time in its evolution. This explains several things about your life experience, why you've always felt different from others, because you literally are at a different stage of development, why spiritual concepts come easily to you, because you've mastered them before. Why do you feel urgently called to help others wake up? Because that's exactly why your soul chose to incarnate now. The intensity of this calling is proportional to the significance of the times we're living in. According to Blavatsky's teachings, we are currently in a transition period between major evolutionary cycles. Humanity is moving from purely physical consciousness towards spiritual awareness. This transition requires active assistance from souls who understand both where humanity is and where it needs to go. Blavatsky's entire life demonstrates this pattern. Despite being born into Russian aristocracy with every material advantage, she felt compelled to abandon comfort and safety to pursue her spiritual mission. She traveled to remote regions, endured physical hardships, and subjected herself to public ridicule, all because she felt an irresistible calling to serve humanity's spiritual development. Her teachers confirmed that this wasn't a personal choice, but a cosmic assignment. "You agreed to this mission long before your current incarnation," Master Moria told her. "Your soul volunteered for this service when it became clear that humanity needed guidance for its approaching transition. This pattern appears throughout history. Every major spiritual teacher, Buddha, Jesus, Krishna, Lao Tzu, demonstrated the same quality, an overwhelming compulsion to share spiritual truth, regardless of personal cost. They didn't seek followers or recognition. They felt compelled to serve human consciousness. More recently, we see similar patterns in individuals who founded progressive spiritual movements. Rudolf Steiner felt called to establish anthroposophy. Alice Bailey dedicated her life to transmitting advanced teachings. Edgar Cayce used his psychic abilities primarily to help others heal and grow spiritually. What's particularly significant is that these individuals often described their work as something they had to do rather than something they chose to do. They felt guided, called, even compelled to serve in ways that often required significant personal sacrifice. Contemporary examples are multiplying rapidly. Across the globe, individuals are feeling called to become spiritual teachers, healers, consciousness researchers, and wisdom keepers. Many report that this calling emerged suddenly and irresistibly, often during their own spiritual awakening experiences. What distinguishes these callings from ego-driven desires for spiritual authority is their focus on service rather than recognition. True servants of humanity's awakening are primarily concerned with the effectiveness of their contribution rather than personal glory or material gain. Research into what motivates spiritual teachers consistently shows that the most authentic ones describe feeling chosen or called to their work, rather than having consciously selected it as a career path. If you recognize this compulsion to serve humanity's awakening, here's how to respond to your calling effectively. First, clarify your specific gifts and how they can best serve others. Not everyone is meant to be a public teacher. Some serve through healing work, others through writing, still others through holding spiritual energy in places where it's needed. Identify what unique contribution your soul came here to make. Second, prepare yourself thoroughly before attempting to guide others. The compulsion to serve must be balanced with humility about your current level of development. Continue your own spiritual work while beginning to share what you've learned. The most effective servants are those who remain students themselves. Third, start small and build gradually. Begin by helping individuals in your immediate circle. Share insights in casual conversations. Offer support to those who seem ready for spiritual guidance. Let your service grow organically rather than forcing it into predetermined forms. Fourth, connect with others who share this calling. Servants of humanity's awakening work most effectively in collaboration rather than isolation. Find your spiritual community and explore how your individual gifts can support collective missions. Finally, trust the process completely. Your soul wouldn't give you this calling without also providing everything needed to fulfill it. Stay open to guidance, remain flexible about methods, and have faith that your sincere desire to serve will be supported by forces greater than your individual will. This compulsion to serve reveals that your spiritual awakening isn't just about you. It's about your role in a much larger transformation happening to humanity as a whole. Understanding this context changes everything about how you approach your development and your life purpose. So let's explore what your awakening really means and how to move forward with confidence and clarity. Integration and next steps. If you've recognized yourself in 3 or more of these 7 signs, there's no doubt your ancient soul is awakening. The unexplained memories, prophetic dreams, instant spiritual knowledge, feeling of otherworldly displacement, psychic sensitivities, hunger for hidden wisdom, and compulsion to serve humanity, these aren't random experiences. They're the systematic activation of your soul's accumulated development from lifetimes of spiritual work. But recognizing these signs is just the beginning. The real question is, what are you going to do with this knowledge? First, understand that you're not alone in this experience. According to Blavatsky's teachings, we are living through what she called the Great Transition, a period when unprecedented numbers of advanced souls are incarnating to assist humanity's spiritual evolution. Across the globe, thousands of people are having the exact experiences we've discussed. You're part of a wave of awakening consciousness that's preparing our species for its next evolutionary leap. Second, recognize that your awakening serves a dual purpose. Yes, it's about your personal spiritual development and the integration of your soul's accumulated wisdom. But it's also about your contribution to the collective awakening. Every person who remembers their true spiritual nature makes it easier for others to do the same. Your individual awakening strengthens the morphic field of human consciousness, creating resonance that supports others' spiritual development. Third, accept that this awakening comes with both gifts and responsibilities. The abilities you're developing, the knowledge you're remembering, the sensitivity you're experiencing, these aren't just for your personal benefit. They're tools for service. Your soul has spent lifetimes developing these capacities specifically so you could use them to help others during this crucial period in human history. Here are the essential steps for supporting and directing your ancient soul's awakening. Immediate actions. Do these today. Start a spiritual notebook with the express purpose of recording your awakening experiences. Keep track of odd recollections, meaningful dreams, epiphanies, psychic experiences, and spiritual study discoveries. This journal will turn into a useful tool for measuring your progress over time and comprehending the communication patterns of your spirit. Make meditation a regular habit, even if it's only for 10 minutes. Regular quiet time is necessary for your awakening soul to have clear communication with your conscious mind. Make use of this time to integrate the spiritual forces that are activating within you, ask questions, and get advice. Take a straightforward approach to studying Helena Blavatsky's writings. The Key to Theosophy provides a clear overview of her ideas, while The Secret Doctrine offers a more in-depth analysis. Many of the things you're experiencing will have context thanks to these teachings, which your awakened spirit will know as familiar ground. Weekly practices. Implement these gradually. Set aside time each week for what Blavatsky called soul retrospection, reviewing your experiences and looking for patterns that reveal your soul's particular mission and gifts. Ask yourself, what themes keep appearing in my spiritual experiences? What abilities seem to be developing most strongly? What forms of service feel most compelling? Practice energy protection and grounding techniques regularly. As your psychic sensitivity increases, you'll need to learn how to manage your interactions with subtle energies consciously. Visualize protective light around yourself, spend time in nature, and engage in physical activities that keep you balanced between spiritual and material awareness. Begin sharing your spiritual insights in appropriate settings. This doesn't mean becoming a teacher prematurely, but it does mean offering your perspective when opportunities arise naturally. Notice how people respond to your sharing. This will give you information about how your particular gifts can best serve others. Monthly review. Deep integration work. Each month, review your spiritual journal for patterns and progression. Are your psychic abilities becoming more accurate? Are your dreams becoming more prophetic or symbolic? Are you recognizing more ancient memories? Are you feeling clearer about your service mission? This regular review helps you understand how your awakening is progressing and what areas need more attention. Research and connect with others who are experiencing similar awakenings. This might mean finding local spiritual groups, attending workshops or retreats, or connecting with online communities focused on consciousness development. Your soul didn't incarnate to awaken in isolation. It needs community with other advancing souls. Experiment with different forms of spiritual service to discover where your gifts can be most effectively applied. This might involve volunteer work with healing organizations, writing about spiritual topics, offering intuitive guidance to friends, or simply holding compassionate space for others going through difficult times. Your awakening is just beginning. The 7 signs we've explored are the initial phases of a much larger process of spiritual activation. As you continue developing, you'll discover abilities you didn't know you possessed. Remember knowledge that extends far beyond this single lifetime, and find yourself increasingly capable of serving humanity's evolution in ways that once seemed impossible. The next level of your development involves what Blavatsky called conscious cooperation with the plan, understanding your specific role in the greater spiritual work being accomplished on Earth, and learning to coordinate your individual efforts with the guidance of more advanced beings. This isn't fantasy or wishful thinking. It's the natural progression of souls who have accepted the responsibility of serving as bridges between human consciousness and its divine potential. Conclusion. Take a moment to appreciate the extraordinary courage you've demonstrated by incarnating during this pivotal time in human history. Your soul looked at the challenges facing humanity, the materialism, the spiritual confusion, the environmental crises, the social upheaval, and said, "I will go there. I will take on the limitations of physical form and the forgetfulness of incarnation to help with this great work." You are not here by accident. You are not here because you need to learn basic lessons about love, compassion, or spiritual truth. You've already learned those lessons. You are here because humanity needs souls who remember what it feels like to live in conscious connection with divine truth. You are here because the world needs bridges between its current consciousness and its spiritual potential. Every moment of feeling different, every experience of not quite fitting in, every instance of knowing more than you formerly learned, these haven't been problems to solve. There have been signals from your soul reminding you that you came here carrying gifts that the world desperately needs. Your ancient soul contains the accumulated wisdom of lifetimes spent in mystery schools, meditation caves, and direct communion with ascended masters. That wisdom is awakening now because the time has come for you to share it. The feelings of urgency you experience, the compulsion to help others wake up, the irresistible drive to seek spiritual truth. These are your soul's way of saying, remember why you came. It's time to begin the work. The core truth I want to leave with you is this. Your ancient soul's awakening is not a personal achievement to be celebrated in private. It's a cosmic assignment that requires your active participation in humanity's spiritual evolution. Every ability you develop, every piece of ancient knowledge you recover, every moment of expanded consciousness you experience, these are not rewards for your spiritual effort. They are tools being placed in your hands so you can fulfill the mission you accepted before incarnating. The world is full of people who are spiritually hungry but don't know what they're hungry for. They feel empty despite material success, lost despite having access to more information than any previous generation, disconnected despite being more technologically linked than ever before. They need you, not because you're superior to them, but because you remember what they've forgotten. This awakening happening within you is part of a carefully orchestrated plan that extends far beyond your individual development. Your soul is one instrument in a vast cosmic symphony being conducted by beings who have successfully navigated the evolutionary journey you're now helping humanity complete. The intensity of what you're experiencing, the speed at which your abilities are developing, the clarity with which spiritual truths are becoming apparent to you, these reflect the urgency of the times. Humanity is at a crossroads, and souls like yours have incarnated specifically to help guide the species toward its highest potential rather than its possible destruction. Trust this process completely. Your soul has been preparing for this mission for lifetimes. Everything you need to succeed is already within you, waiting to be awakened and applied. As your ancient soul continues awakening, you can expect your life to become increasingly extraordinary. The psychic abilities that seem overwhelming now will become reliable tools for helping others. The spiritual knowledge that feels fragmentary will coalesce into wisdom you can share effectively. The sense of mission that seems abstract will crystallize into specific opportunities for meaningful service. You will find yourself in exactly the right places at exactly the right times to offer exactly what people need for their own spiritual awakening. Synchronicities will guide your path. Resources will appear when needed. Teachers will emerge to help you develop your gifts. Most importantly, you'll connect with other awakening souls who share your mission, creating collaborative relationships that amplify everyone's effectiveness. The masters who guided Helena Blavatsky continue to guide souls who are sincerely committed to serving humanity's evolution. As your dedication to this service becomes clear through your actions, you too will receive direct guidance from beings who have successfully completed the journey you're helping others navigate. Your awakening is supported by forces of consciousness that extend throughout the cosmos. You are never working alone, never without guidance, never abandoned to figure things out through individual effort only. So here is my challenge to you. Stop doubting your spiritual experiences and start acting on them. Stop minimizing your abilities and start developing them. Stop waiting to feel ready enough to serve and start offering whatever gifts you currently possess. The world doesn't need you to be perfect. It needs you to be authentic. It needs you to share the wisdom your soul has accumulated, demonstrate the possibilities that spiritual development offers, and hold space for others to remember their own divine nature. Make connections with people going through comparable awakenings. Examine the lessons that most strongly connect with the recognition of your soul. Engage in the spiritual practices that enhance your innate skills. Above all, figure out how to apply all your learning to something bigger than your own development. Your ancient soul has been waiting lifetimes for this opportunity to serve humanity's awakening. The time of preparation is ending. The time of active service has begun. Trust your soul's wisdom. Answer your soul's calling. Become the bridge between worlds that you incarnated to be. The future of human consciousness depends on souls like yours remembering who they are and why they came. Will you answer that call? Your ancient soul is awakening. The question is, what will you do with that awakening? The choice and the extraordinary opportunity it represents is yours.